Okay, I might not look exactly like Dean, but I look pretty good for being dead 28 years. You know, the Rat Pack was an exclusive club. There's Frank and me and Peter Lawford and Joey Bishop and Sammy Davis, and we had a really good time. You know, Frank and I went out moose hunting last year. We went up to the Yukon and they dropped us off by plane, and we went moose hunting for a week. They came back with the plane and they said, "Oh, you okay?" I said, "Yeah, we're just fine. Just you go ahead and load them 6 moose up." He said, 6 moose? He said, "I can't put 6 moose on this plane." He said, "It's too heavy. You can only have 2. And I said, "Well, you know, last year they let us have 6. It was the same company, same plane." He said, "Well, if they did it last year, it's okay with me. Load them up." So they loaded up the 6 moose. And we took off, and it was straining. I'll tell you, it was straining. But we got up in the air, and we didn't go a couple hundred yards. Bam! We slammed down into the country. And Frank came up out of the rubble, and I came up, and I looked over at him and said, "How far do you think we got?" He said, "About the same as last year." You know, we get beat up for talking about drinking. You know, we don't drink that much. Matter of fact, I don't drink at all anymore. I just freeze them, and then I eat them like popsicles the next couple of days. You know, my old friend Joey Lewis told me, he said, "You're not really drunk if you can lay on the floor and not have to hold on." That's pretty good. Yeah, you know, I've had some bad luck in my life, and I bought this suit. I paid a fortune for this suit, 2 pairs of pants, and then I burned a hole in the coat. That's bad luck, but I got to tell you, my next door neighbor, now he had some bad luck. He had a text from his next door neighbor that said, "I've got to admit to a secret." He said, "For months now I've been tapping your wife." And the guy was enraged. He said, "That's the last straw." Went, got his gun, and shot that woman graveyard dead. And just as he was putting the gun to his own head, his phone went off again. He got another text. He looked, it was from the same guy. He said, "That damn autocorrect, I meant to say I've been tapping your Wi-Fi." Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just. I was talking to these guys. There was 3 surgeons, and they were up in the break room after a day of surgery, and they were talking, and they said, you know, they had really an eventful day. They said that they really had the easiest surgeries that they'd ever had. He said first they had an artist, Herb, that came in, and they cut him open, and he was full of his artwork. He was all color coded. Said the red went to red, blue went to blue, green went to green. Said it was the easiest surgery I ever had. The second surgeon said, "Well, I had Lynn Brown. And as organized as that woman is, everything was numbered. 1 went to 1, 2 went to 2, 3 went to 3. And the third surgeon said, "That's nothing. I had the easiest surgery ever. I had John Phillips. He's been the back over here. Said open him up, and he only had 2 moving parts. His butthole and his mouth. And they were interchangeable." We had 3 of us were out. We were talking one day about who had the best dog. And you know, we had Sammy Davis. You know, he's a one-eyed accountant. I don't know about that. I'd have to worry about my taxes with a one-eyed accountant. And then we had what is that boy's
Joey
name?
Bishop.
Lawford. Lawford was an archaeologist. And then there was Frank, and he used to be a salesman before we all got into these wonderful things. And so first off, they said, okay, and Lawford said, "Well, I'll send my dog Bigger." And go, Digger. And Digger got off into the field, and he started sniffing around, and he dug up all these bones. He dug up an entire Tyrannosaurus Rex. and he came back, and then Sammy said, well, wait a minute, let me send out my dog. So he sent out his dog, Ledger. And Ledger went out, picked up all the bones that were out there, brought them back in front of him, and arranged them all in perfect order. Came back, got a pat on the head. And Frank, the ex-salesman, sent out his dog, expense account. He sent him out, and he ate all the bones. He screwed the other two dogs. He took the rest of the day off. Life is very strange. My wife and I were in the hot tub the other night. And you know how it is in the hot tub. You start talking about silly things. We're drinking a little wine. And she said to me, she said, now listen, Dean, if I was to die, would you get married again? I said, that's the most ridiculous question you've ever asked me. Well, no, really, she said, we've gone through this before. If I was gone, would you get married again? And I thought about it. I said, well, you know, I'm a married man. I've been married before. I'm married to you. I love being married. I imagine that if I was alone, I'd probably get married again. She said, well, that's a good answer. That's a good, honest answer. But if you got married again, would you live in our house? I thought, well, darling, this was a great house. We built the house. We spent every dime we had in this house. It's wonderful. Yeah, I think we'd still live in this house. Well, okay, she said, I guess that makes sense. She said, would you let her sleep in my bed? I said, well, dear, it's part of a big set, and it goes so well in that room. I can't see, it's a piece of furniture. I don't know why you're so worried about it. Well, she said, all right. Would you let her use my golf clubs? And I said, well, hell no. And she said, well, why are you so determined about that? I said, because she's left-handed. You know, I went down the buffet line in Hollywood the other day, and went back into the Hollywood dressing room, and we had a buffet back there, and there must have been a beach movie being made, because as I'm going down the line to get my food, there's these three girls in bikinis coming out carrying trays, and then, wow, and I looked at the food. I guess I am getting older. Is that chicken parm? You know, I guess everybody knows I'm getting older because, you know, the mailman stopped delivering me those Victoria's Secret catalogs. They did. They started sending me instead the Harry and David gift baskets. The worst part about that whole thing is I looked at them the same way. Ooh, smoked cheeses. Would you look at that? Those are shortbread cookies. Wow, can you imagine what I could do with a sleeve of shortbread cookies? You know, I'll tell you one last thing. You know, getting drunk is really not that much fun. I got so drunk the other night, I had to take a bus home. Now, some of you probably don't think that's really all that bad, but that's the first time I ever drove a bus. Thank you, Heather.